The shocking developments concerning Russia's retreat from Ukraine and prophecies concerning what Russia is going through now are being fulfilled. Everything is turned upside down to rely on the plan of God, which is his holy plan, of course. Is Putin under retirement, quote unquote? Speechlessness and obscurity and dramatic changes. Where is Putin? Why isn't he saying anything about as to what's happening? Put on your trust in princes, in the sons of men. Put not your trust in princes and the sons of men, to whom there is no salvation. Psalm 145:3. Cast your care on the Lord, and he will nourish you. Dr. Konstantin Radakas writes, in the last and most critical 24 hours of modern Russian history, where paradoxical things are happening, the silence and invisibility of the Russian President Vladimir Putin is troubling the already tense climate. As a leader, he already had to show up and not make others justify the unjustifiable. Paradoxical and absurd things happening because when you make decisions about special military missions and operations, and the blood of innocent soldiers or civilians is spilled from both sides, and then you retreat, this in itself shows that something else is going on. The international media are shouting that Russia is setting a big trap or that it has already entered into negotiations with the United States, and the question raised, why should so much blood be shed to set a trap or to meet with the enemy? The question occupies Russian public opinion and every reasonable person. In Moscow, they're trying to justify themselves, but they are not succeeding. As they say in the Russian newspaper Pravda, Russia's new plan, Ukraine will not survive the winter, it will be exhausted. Kiev is running out of resources and money. Western aid is not going to last forever. The maneuver of the armed forces of the Russian Federation to take advantageous positions along the Dnieper River changes the special operation aimed at exhausting Ukraine. And they said more. On the other hand, Dmitry Medvedev comes out and threatens, and of course what he says is directed not only at NATO military blog, but also at the innocence of all societies. He said, Russia alone is fighting NATO and the Western world. Any parallel with the past is wrong, except that we now know how to destroy the enemy, is what Dmitry Medvedev said. He's deputy head of the Russian Security Council. He said this on the Telegram yesterday, November 12th. So according to him, in the routine of difficult everyday life and under the influence of very difficult military decisions, the results of this year, which are extremely important for our country and all of us, began to be seen and are bad for our enemies, he said. Remember, he said that Russia alone is fighting NATO and the Western world. Therefore, any parallel with the past is incorrect or conditional, except for one thing. We alone can destroy a powerful enemy or enemy alliances, Medvedev said. We have not exhausted our entire arsenal. Speaking of difficult military decisions in Kherson, the former Russian president typically stated that Russia, for obvious reasons to all reasonable people, has not yet used its entire arsenal of possible means disaster. In other words, they have more arsenal to use. Russia, during the years of Putin, created the most billionaires on the planet and the most eccentric ones through opaque financial transactions, that is, opaque meaning corrupt, of course. Their yachts and their private planes far surpassed those of the Western capitalists who themselves wanted to surpass them. At the same time, this elite wore the garment of religion without knowing the humble attitude of Christian orthodoxy. The mind of all of them was on the money for this, and they do not hesitate to become the henchmen of the Sultan, who these days threatens Christian Orthodox Greece with war, meaning, of course, Turkey. And at the same time, this elite provides him with weapons and know-how against Christians. Of course, this Russian elite position and action does not seem to have anything to do with the great Russian saints who are so honored by the Christian Orthodox world and even ordinary Russian people. These great Russian saints said a lot about what we live in and what's happening now about the current situation in Russia. Evaluate the forecast because something else is coming. Holy Matrona of Russia said this: the old ones will return to Russia, and the situation will become worse than it was before. So who did she mean by the old ones? She meant probably military and communists. I was asking her about the course of Russia during the revolution, and she was telling me, first they will take out Stalin. After him, the rulers will alternate, and one will be worse than the other. They will seize Russia, she said. After the war, the comrades will return abroad. They will see how foreigners live. They will become corrupt and finally break their faces. There will be riots, disputes, massacres. One party will fight the other. Then there will be some improvement, but it will take some time. It will take a breather. And you will have everything. You will even be able to do the prayer in Red Square and also the memorial services for the massacred Tsar. But then the old ones will return to Russia, meaning the communists, and the situation will become worse than it was before. And she went on to say, oh, how I pity you all until the end of time, because from then on, this is how you will live, she said. That's terrible, isn't it? And then we have the prophecy of Elder Jonah of Odessa. He said, if the Lord must give the Russians an Orthodox Tsar, then we must repent and pray very hard, and then only through that Tsar coming from God, Russia could find then Russia could find salvation. In 2007, when he said this, Putin had already been a politician for many years. He wore a political suit and was not a Tsar, hence he did not wear a military uniform. Elder Jonah of Odessa, during his dormition, he passed away in 2012. In 2007, though, he said, also Elder Jonah said, unrest in a country smaller than Russia will come a year after my death. So he prophesied this exactly right. The unrest will come it did come in 2008 in Ukraine. A year after my death, the troubles will continue for 2 years, after which a Russian Tsar will appear. The first Easter will be full of blood, the second will be full of hunger, the third will be full of victory. So, Catholics will come into our country. They will not stay long, but they will do great harm and shed much blood. They will go away in shame with their heads down. Regarding the war in Ukraine, he predicted that this will be a spiritual war, and his primary purpose is to destroy Ukraine by alienating from the Holy Russian Orthodox, to destroy Orthodoxy itself. Referring to let's remember what's happened to Ukraine. The patriarch, the Christian Orthodox patriarch, was to blame for what happened. He removed all the properly licensed or ordained Christian Orthodox priests and put in those that were I'm not going to say sodomites, but you know what I mean. Okay, so he took away all the properly ordained priests of the Christian Orthodox Church, and he said they're no longer allowed to be priests, and he put in those who are not supposed to be priests because of various sins against God. So you can understand what's happened to Ukraine. This he did about 2 or 3 years ago, I think. Now, so Ukraine alienating itself from Orthodoxy, also the Orthodox Patriarch is to blame for that. Now, referring to the dollar, he said, the wind will blow the dollars along the road like autumn leaves, and no one will chase them. They will be like pieces of cheap paper. And he said that if the Lord should give the Russians an Orthodox Tsar, then we must repent and pray very hard, and then only through the Tsar coming from God, Russia could find salvation. There are many indications that the initiative of the movements in Moscow was taken by others, as one failure follows another, but all this is a plan from a holy plan, a sacred plan of salvation from our holy God, because one cannot see Putin. Where is Putin, who confesses Putin confesses that his best friend is Erdogan, to be the one to star in desire. So, well done, Mr. Putin. Where are you? And your best friend is Turkey, who's about to start war with the Christians of Greece. What can I tell you? Still, we don't know where Putin is. We haven't heard him for this is the third day now. So, what do you think? Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Thank you. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.